Hey beauties, welcome back to the channel. So as you can see by the title, we're doing a video that's never actually been done over here on Purposeful Pursuits, and that is going to be my eyeshadow palette collection. Just in case you don't watch the video to the end, I'm gonna just put this out there in the beginning. Number one, when you're seeing this video, I'm getting a procedure done. So I've either had the medical procedure done, like it's the day of, or it's recovery. So if you notice that you don't see a video from me in a week, I'm hoping it won't be more than a week for recovery, then just know that that's why I need to take care of my health. So just know that that's going on. And then the other question for you, well, the other thing is actually a question. What is your favorite eyeshadow primer? I don't buy eyeshadow primers in excess at all. And so I really want a new eyeshadow primer. So let me know what your favorite eyeshadow primer is. And I appreciate you in advance. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into the eyeshadow palettes. I have organized them all by brand, and I think I have them in alphabetical order. But if I'm doing this video and you notice they're not in alphabetical order, give me grace, okay? Because I did my best. Okay, y'all, so we're gonna start with the Colourpop palettes that I have. The first palette that I have is the, oh my gosh. Oh, have you ever accidentally nicked your eyeshadow and like your heart stopped for a second? You know what I mean? You're like, oh my goodness. The first palette is the Colourpop Give It To Me Straight palette. And this is what it looks like right here. This palette is really pretty. It has a lot of like the mauve tones in there, a lot of rosy tones. I think this palette is really pretty. The next palette I have that I actually just got today, my partner actually surprised me with this palette today. It is the Colourpop Back to Hogwarts palette. I really wanted this palette. I've been looking at it for quite a while, and for some reason I just hadn't picked it up. So he surprised me with it today, and I did a very simple look with this palette, mostly with this and then some green on my eyes. So that's the palette I'm wearing today. Y'all probably can't tell. I really need to get my camera fixed because I feel like the quality from my phone is not the best. But yeah, so I have that. I hope this collection don't come out like a hot mess. Okay, and then I have the Colourpop Matte About Hue palette. I've only used this palette once because I recently got this palette as well. So a lot of these palettes are a little bit newer to me. But this is the Colourpop All Matte Bright palette. I'm very excited to use it. So that's what that one looks like. And then this is the Colourpop It's All Good eyeshadow palette. And that is that one. As you can see, I've definitely used this one. But it's really pretty. It has kind of a mix of tones. I feel like the main thing that I see though, like I feel like my eyes are drawn here. Let me know what really stands out to you in this palette, but I feel like my eyes are really drawn here. Overall, I think Colourpop has a good formula. Like some of their palettes, I've noticed that I haven't liked a lot of the palettes that I've gotten from Target, and so a lot of those have gone back. But like these big 30, what are these? I think these are the 35 shadow palettes. I really like these. I think the formula is very consistent. It's pigmented, but it's not so pigmented it's gonna scare you away. Like for instance, like my Juvias Place palettes. I think those palettes are super pigmented, but almost to the point where some people don't like those. I think this pigmentation really, it's just user friendly, but it is definitely pigmented. I don't have issues with fading, creasing, anything like that. This is the Play It Jewel palette. Can you imagine this in the fall? I mean, can you see it? This shade is practically begging to go on my lid. Oh my God. So I actually have not played with this one. I found this at TJMaxx recently, and I was very, very excited and very grateful to find that. And then also the Colourpop Your Golden palette. And that is this one right here, which is funny because it's not a very golden palette. This is like the one goldy shade that I see in there, but I really wanted this palette, so I picked this up at TJMaxx as well. So this is that one. The next one is Covergirl, and I only actually have one eyeshadow palette from Covergirl, and it's the Covergirl Tru Naked in Golden. Do y'all remember when Covergirl came out with the Tru Naked line and they had like multiple different ones? I think they might even still have these, but the golden one is the one that really stood out to me. You can tell that I have loved on this, particularly this shade right here. But yeah, There's that one. This formula to me, I was like, okay, CoverGirl, I see you. I'm like, why are we not using this formula? This formula is actually so soft. It almost feels kind of like buttery a little bit. And so I'm like, CoverGirl, this is your formula that you need to use right here. So I think that's Colourpop's CoverGirl's best formula. And then from e.l.f., I thought I had more e.l.f. palettes, but I just have these 3 OG palettes right here, actually. And this is the Prism palette. I used to have all of the Prism palettes, but I have since gotten rid of all of them except Naked. I do miss the smoky one, but my smoky one kept breaking and crumbling apart and getting all over the drawer. So I finally had to let it go, which does make me sad. This palette is just nostalgic for me to look at this because I remember when this was one of the only eyeshadow palettes I had. I have purchased this palette over since that time, but I remember when this was one of the only palettes that I had. And these shades almost looked so beautiful and so foiled. So that's that one. I know it looks like nothing in the pan, but every time I do it, it's one of those palettes that is like, you don't look at it in the pan and go, wow, that's one of the best eyeshadow palettes I have. But when you do your eyeshadow with it, every time you're just like, well, damn, that's beautiful. You know what I mean? I have the e.l.f. Matte for Matte palette. And it's funny to think about at the time when this palette came out, there was not a lot of affordable matte eyeshadow palettes. So this really did something for affordable / drugstore palettes at the time. Do you know what I mean? So there's that one. And then I also have the Matte for Matte Summer Breeze edition. So this one was, you know, warmer. So that's that one right there. I hope y'all can see these well. And I know I'm not swatching eyeshadow palettes. That's because, y'all, I have a lot of palettes to show y'all. And so if I went through and swatched every one of these, we would just be here for forever. And one thing I've noticed is that my videos don't get watched very far. So I don't want to make a very long video that nobody's going to want to watch. If you see eyeshadows in here that you are like, I'm really interested at, can you show me more? I can do a review on it. I don't care if it's an older palette or I can just do swatches or whatever you're interested in. So please let me know. But I just want to be mindful of time because it's already 10 minutes in. Next up is Juvia's Place. I love Juvia's Place eyeshadow, so you're going to see a lot of them. The first one is the Juvia's Place, the Nubian palette. This is one of my favorite formulas out of every formula I have in my eyeshadow palette collection. High-end, drugstore, I don't care, dollar store. This is one of the best formulas that I've ever used, and I love it a lot. So this is that palette. It's very warm, very bronzy. I'm into it. And then the Nubian 2 came out. And this is one of those palettes. I just like opening it up and looking at it. This is a very swatchable palette. Like, look at that. It is so swatchable. That cobalt blue, you gotta be kidding me. This green right here. And you might think this is actually showing up on camera brighter than it is. It's showing up a lot brighter than it is on camera. I do have my lights on, but yeah, it's showing up a little bit brighter than it is, but it's beautiful. And I think something about just the jumbo size is just like, yummy. Like when I look at that, I'm just like, that's yummy. I'm sorry, it is. And then I have the Warriors by Juvia's Place. Very brown, very bronzy. Love it, love to see it. And then I have the Nubian 3 Coral palette. Now this one has been underloved by me. I will say that. So I need to spend some more time with this. This is definitely a palette I don't feel like I've really gotten to know in my collection. So I do need to spend some more time with this. I have used it, but just not as much as I've used everything else in my collection. Let me know if this is one of your favorite Juvia's Place palettes. I'm very curious. And then I also have the Masquerade Mini by Juvia's Place. This is one of my favorite Juvia's Place palettes. I just love the mix. Like, you're getting some pops of color, you're getting some neutrals, you know, some great like inner corner highlights, brow bone highlights, just whatever you want to do with them. Lid shades, the world is your oyster, whatever you want to do. But I love this palette right here. And then I have Juvia's Place Culture palette. And I saw that there's a Culture too. And I kind of collect Juvia's Place eyeshadows. Like, I can't hold. There are like 5 Juvia's Place palettes I want to get, but I'm just, you know, sticking with what I have for now and just being content and grateful for what I have. But, you know, there's like, I feel like Juvia's Place palettes are just so collectible. So this is the Culture palette right here. And I just feel like you have so much of like just anything you could need for the most part, you can probably find it here. I have used this a bit. My favorite row is actually this green row. It's so beautiful. Y'all, I'm really hoping my eyeshadow palette collection does not come out messed up. Okay. And then I have one palette. I actually got this in a Secret Santa last year. And it is called the Cara Beauty palette. I think it might be called You Had Me at Aloha. I think that's what it's called. The packaging is really pretty. I don't know anything about the Cara Beauty brand. I do like that there is a mirror in there. Like, yes, do that. And so I don't blind y'all. This is the palette right here. And from what I've used of this palette, I actually think the formula is like pretty decent. Like, I didn't have too many issues. Like, I haven't used a lot of the shades in here, but I've used a few. And I felt like, you know, it blended out pretty well. The pigmentation was pretty nice. So I would definitely explore this brand more. Like, I'm one of those people, y'all, I will look for makeup anywhere. I get just excited about an eyeshadow palette from the dollar store as I do with an eyeshadow palette from Sephora. I just love makeup. It just makes me happy, and I just love playing with new formulas, learning new formulas. So I am definitely somebody that, you know, I don't care if it's a name brand eyeshadow palette or not. If I think it's pretty, I will get it and try it out. So that's that palette. And then now me having to sing the alphabet song in my mind to figure out where I'm at. Okay, now we're on M, and I have quite a few brands with M, is what I've come to find out. The first one is Makeup Geek, which, as we know, Makeup Geek is discontinued. For as much as I love Makeup Geek eyeshadows, I would have thought I had more, but Makeup Geek was not the easiest to come by. I'm missing one of the shades right here. This was the Makeup Geek, I think it was called like the starter kit or something like that you could get. And it came, you know, in this pan right here. As you can see, I loved it. I used it a lot. This used to be my go-to traveling palette. The Makeup Geek formula was really good. One of the best formulas. It was everything it needed to be. It was very pigmented, but it was still blendable, because sometimes very pigmented shades are not the most blendable. So this really did both of those things well, while also, you know, not having issues with like creasing or anything like that. So if it was still around, I would highly recommend it. And then these are some of my other Makeup Geek singles that I have. And I do not plan to get rid of these. I'm absolutely going to use them and love them very much so. So after Makeup Geek, I thought I had more palettes from Maybelline, but I have one, and it is the Maybelline Nudes of New York. And to be honest with you, I've tried a lot of Maybelline palettes, which leads me to believe that I must have decluttered them. I think this is the best formula that Maybelline has done. The Nudes of New York is really good. One of the best drugstore nude eyeshadow palettes. I really, really like it a lot. It's just so good, y'all. This formula is so, again, you'll notice something with me. If a formula is pretty pigmented, but it's also blendable, I don't have issues with creasing, anything like that, I'm going to like the eyeshadow formula. And also it feels good. And then surprisingly, I feel like this palette swatches nicely, but it also goes on the eye nicely as well. So if for some reason you see this and you were wanting to get it, it's a good one. I would recommend it. I think it's pretty good. And by pretty good, I mean very good. Okay, so next up we have Milani, which I think I have a lot of Milani eyeshadow palettes as well. So the first one, these are discontinued. These were the Milani Everyday Eyes palette. I have 05 Earthy Elements. I think this is the one that's broke, so I got to be kind of careful with it. Yeah, it's broken. Ah. This is one of the best formulas that Milani did. And then it had like a little tutorial on the back. So I felt like it also made it very beginner friendly and just very approachable, especially if you were starting out in makeup, because I know sometimes we can be in a bubble here on YouTube, but not everybody is experienced with makeup and eyeshadow and that kind of thing, or feel comfortable with it. You know what I mean? And so the same thing with this one. This was the Everyday Eyes palette. And this was the all matte version. Even though this shade in the middle, I'm telling y'all, it was definitely more of like a satin. It was definitely not all matte. And then they had some tutorials on the back of that one as well. One of Milani's best formulas ever. And then they have the Milani Gilded Minis. So far, I have only gotten one. And of course, I got the matte one because I love matte eyeshadows. And this is in 110 Whiskey Business. This is also a really good formula as well. And so I was happy to see that because I'm like, Milani, every time you come out with a great formula, it goes away. So I'm like, please don't do that. I think this is the newest one that's in stores. And then before those, there was, do y'all remember these Milani palettes in this packaging right here? I thought these were so beautiful, so sleek. Like they really made me feel like, I think these were like $20 and I remember rushing out to find them and going around at different stores looking for them. This is the 03 Soft and Sultry. So this is like, and this one I keep in my collection because as you will see, I don't have a ton of cool tones in my collection. I really don't. So this is actually unique in my collection because I don't buy a lot of cool tone eyeshadow palettes, but sometimes you just want a cool tone eyeshadow palette. So, and this formula is really good. These especially, actually, I can't even say that. The mattes are just as good. Let me look. Oh, you know, you think you see something weird? The mattes are just as good as the metallic shades, actually. Like, let me not even trip. And then, of course, I have another matte eyeshadow palette. This is in Most Love Mattes. There was a time when this was the only thing I used. So pretty. So there's that one. Then the one that I've been using to like hold stuff out the way with is the Milani, say Milani back to back a million and one times and you will get tongue tied. This is the Milani Ungilded Most Love Mattes palette. Again, with the mattes. I know, I can't listen. I love a good matte and I'm always love a good matte. So there's that one. This is really nice. I think this one is still in stores. Really nice. If you are looking for a basic matte eyeshadow palette, this is a good one right here. And I love that it has a mirror so you can travel with this one. You can use this to do your makeup. Actually, y'all, you know, my makeup don't look as bad as I thought it looked. You ever get done doing your makeup and then you're just like, actually, all of this, not feeling it, none of it at all. But looking at my makeup up close, I'm like, actually, it's not bad. I don't know if I like this new foundation I tried, but otherwise, it's not bad. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that. So that is those. And then I think next up is Morphe. So I only have two Morphe palettes. I have the original OG, the Jaclyn Hill palette by Morphe. I did not buy the second one because it literally just seemed like all pink shades. And I just was like, I don't need that one. I just was not interested. But this one I continue to think is one of Morphe's best palettes. I continue to think that this is just a great palette. I feel like I can do so much with this. Now, could this palette have been edited down? Absolutely, sure. Am I mad at it? I'm not. And I really, really like it. So, and I have used this palette a ton. This palette definitely gets loved in my collection. And then this one, I don't know why it's still in the packaging. This is the Morphe Seize the Present palette. And I know that my partner actually bought this palette for me as well. So it was a gift. And I didn't realize until later on that I was like, oh, this was a different palette than what I thought it was. So I, you know, when he was like, oh, I'll get you a palette, I was like, oh, okay. But then I was thinking of a different palette than this one. But I do actually like this palette. So this is what it looks like right here. And actually, I think I'm going to take it out of this packaging so I can use it more. But yeah, so this is what it looks like. So those are the two Morphe palettes I have. And next up is, I think we're on to ends. Let me just take a look. Yeah. Yes. And that brings me to NYX. I actually have not bought a new NYX palette in quite a while. I find that NYX eyeshadows are very hit and miss. You're either going to get one of the best NYX palettes ever, or you're going to get one that's hit or miss. Or honestly, sometimes in one palette, it's like, well, this part of the palette is good and this part of the palette is not good. So I find NYX to be pretty inconsistent. But these, when these came out, I just can't get rid of them. When these came out, I was like, NYX, everything up in here is good. It's gold. Keep it going. So let me lay them out so I can see. So the first one is, these are the Avant Pop palettes, by the way. And so this first one was Art Throb. Also, what a time to be alive around the time that this eyeshadow palette came out. It was just a time in makeup. We had a time in makeup. Did we not? So there's that one. And I hope y'all are okay with me not doing swatches. I don't know, maybe you're screaming at the screen right now like, girl, why you ain't doing swatches? This one is Surreal My Heart. This one right here. Also, am I the only one? Like, let's just take a moment here. Hold on. Let me figure out how to do this. This right here, like NYX, what you should have done was release this as a quad. This is absolutely beautiful. Like, is it just me? This shade right here is so unassuming, but it is so beautiful. So I loved that one. And then my favorite one was Nouveau Chic. That's this one right here. I'm trying to get it up close so you can see it. You can tell that this one was loved on by me for sure. So that's that one. And then a newer one that I bought, actually, I saw at one of the bargain stores near me, is the Mystic Petals. Because I realized I didn't have a lot of purple in my collection. And I really wanted a purple palette. I just wanted to play more with purple eyeshadow. So I decided to get this palette right here. I have not used this one yet. This one is newer to me. I have not used this one yet. So I can't wait to try that. It's very rare that I have a palette in my collection that I haven't tried yet. But y'all done caught me after I've done a little bargain shopping here and there. So I got some newer ones in my palette. But let me know if you have this palette, if you like this palette, if you like the formula. I am excited to play with it. And then I think now we're on to Profusion. Let me grab those. So me and Profusion, we have a complicated relationship because I remember when Profusion first came to my Walmart, I went and bought like 5 different Profusion eyeshadow palettes and they were so ashy. They let me down. It was like is it the 8-pan palettes, I think? They let me down. I was really sad. And so for a long time, I just would not purchase anything. Profusion has since redeemed themselves and there are quite a few things that I love from Profusion. So when I saw the Profusion chocolates, I said, listen, that's everything I love in an eyeshadow palette right there. Can you see it? Let me get up close so you can actually see that some of these shades are not the same. There we go. So I thought that was really pretty. And I'm pretty sure this was, yeah, this was a Ross find for me. And I got it for $5.99. Not that Profusion is the most expensive eyeshadow palette, because it's not. And then y'all, was at Five Below recently. And I saw this one and they had a ton of different beauty books. And I decided to go with this one because, let me take the plastic off. But the reason why I decided to go with this one, and I don't know that they have names on them. I actually think they should have named them, but they didn't. That's okay. Yeah, they should have named them. So just look out for this one, because they had a ton of different ones. But the reason why I decided to go with this one is because notice the bronzer, the highlight, blush, and bronzer, those felt like those were women of color friendly, and those were shades that I could definitely use. So I was like, well, let me get that one. And then look at the shades in there. Isn't it pretty? Isn't it pretty? So, and I swatched some of these and they swatched very nice. Not that that always tell the whole story, but I just wanted to see. And I think this is really pretty, and I just cannot wait to just sit down like I'm Picasso and just have a good time. So I'm gonna cover it back up, and then I'll show you, like, this is what it actually looks like with the protective covering on. And then you can see that actually all of these, they're not regular eyeshadow palettes, they're all pressed pigments. And then again, you have that highlight, blush, and bronzer in there as well. I also realized a palette that's missing. I have a different palette from Milani as well as one of their all-inclusive like face and eye palettes, but I'll show that in a different video. And then where are we at now? Okay, so I think we're getting close to the end, y'all. We're making it. I think we are on to Rimmel. I have 2 Rimmel palettes, y'all. I could have swore I had the Rimmel Spice palette. I looked everywhere. I can't find it. I'm not gonna front like my heart is breaking. It's not breaking because it is, because I love the Rimmel Spice palette, and I was like, yeah, I don't need the Naked Heat because this really satisfies my need for it. I literally, nowhere in this house can I find it. So I probably will need to get that one again. But anyway, the 2 that I do have is the Rimmel Magnifies Color Edition. And it came with a little brush. You know, I took that out of there, but there is that one. And these palettes, some of them were hit and miss, but the ones that I specifically picked up, I don't know, I guess I just picked the ones that were a hit because I didn't have any issues with them. This is the Jewel Rocks palette. And what does this remind you of? Does that kind of give you Subculture vibes a little bit? I never got my hands on Subculture. There was such a whole situation with Subculture. I never got my hands on it. And I kind of regret it. If I'm honest, I kind of regret it a little bit. But yeah, I was like, you know what? I think this can kind of feel my Subculture need. So I have those 2. And then from S, now this is probably the oldest eyeshadow palette I have. I technically have not even used this in a really long time. It is the Sonia Kashuk Ion Neutral Matte 02 palette. And you can tell I used to love this palette. I hit pan on it. I've actually been thinking about doing a video on all the shadow, on everything I've hit pan on, but that's a different video. But anyway, here is this palette right here. And I know you're looking at it like, wow, that doesn't look like anything special, but it was though. Like at the time when this came out, again, Drugstore was not really having all matte eyeshadow palette. It just wasn't an offering. You know, you might get a single shadow here or there, but it really was not an offering. So at the time when this came out, people were just like, this is amazing. And yeah, and I was people. And yeah, but since then, right, Drugstore eyeshadow has come a very long way, and we love to see it because our heart will always belong to the Drugstore. And then Wet n Wild. I think Wet n Wild is my other category where I have a ton of eyeshadow palettes. So let's just go ahead and give Wet n Wild their flowers right now. Wet n Wild has consistently been putting out bomb eyeshadow palettes from the beginning. I'm not saying they don't ever slip up. I'm just saying overall, we can expect quality. So this is the Wet n Wild walking on eggshells. Y'all, hold on, let me have some water. That's what happens when you've been talking for 30 minutes. Okay, let's try that again. This is the Wet n Wild walking on eggshells 5-pan palette. Now, I will say, to me, holding this is makeup history right here. I really wish I had my original walking on eggshell palette. It was a little trio, and then I think at one point, wasn't it a 4-pan palette? Walking on eggshells have just gone through so many iterations. If I can find them, like pictures of them, I'm gonna just pop them on the screen right now. So if I'm paused and there's nothing on the screen, that means I couldn't find them. If I'm paused and there's stuff up around here, I found it. But yeah, I just feel like this is like Drugstore makeup history right here. Like, love it. And then I'm gonna actually start here because I also think these are older and they came out before the other ones I'm gonna show. So I feel like the white packaging was the last iteration that Wet n Wild did. So before they did that, this is like the OG Comfort Zone. Now, I have recently repurchased my Comfort Zone, so don't come for me. But this is the Comfort Zone palette right here. This is another one that I think is just makeup history. And you know, funnily enough, I remember getting Comfort Zone early on before I even knew or was big into makeup, and trying it and getting so frustrated because the shades were so pigmented. I didn't know what went where. I didn't know how to blend. Nothing. And I remember throwing it away because I was so pissed off and I was so mad. And I was like, this sucks. But really, it was that I didn't know how to use eyeshadows at all. I didn't even know or had heard anything about YouTube beauty community, nothing like that. And I think about that sometimes, and I'm like, girl, you threw away Wet n Wild. Don't let it happen again. And then Wet n Wild changed it. I don't know if they had an iteration between this Comfort Zone and this Comfort Zone, but this is then what Comfort Zone went to. So you got some great transition shades in here, which was really nice. I'm not gonna hold. I love to have this one, but this was nice to have. And then in that same, you know, time when they released those, they also released a couple other ones. And this is the Not a Basic Peach. Yes, Not a Basic Peach, which a lot of people said was, what did people say this was a dupe for? Y'all help me out. I can't remember. This was a dupe for something. I can't remember what it was, but yeah. Was it the Too Faced Peach palette? I think people were saying had some similarities in it. And then I also have Rosé in the Air, which we all knew, you know, had some similarities to Modern Renaissance. And I loved that that was available. So, yeah, and I'm very happy to have it. So, I do love that. And then, again, the white packaging, right? So then the Walking on Eggshells. And then they also had Nude Awakening, which looks like this. Let me know which formulation did you prefer. Did you prefer the white packaging formulation, the black packaging formulation, or just like the OG with Wet n Wild? Always curious, like which one people thought was like Wet n Wild. This was the best you've done. Let me know. And then I also have the, I think this Call Me Sunshine. Yeah, Call Me Sunshine, Wet n Wild. And Emily Noel made me buy this one. Literally nobody but Emily Noel. I saw her put this on in the video and I was like, I want to put on this palette and drink my coffee at my vanity. And so I had to have it. I'm not proud of it, but it's what happened. Okay. And then I think, y'all, this is the final eyeshadow palette in my drugstore series. This is the Ulta Everyday Faves palette. And this is one of the best palettes that I ever tried too late, because by the time I tried it, they were already phasing it out. So I'm gonna cover up the mirror. So they had all the names on it like this. But y'all, when I tell y'all, this is one of the best formulas. This formula right here, I can't speak on their singles or anything else, but the formula in the Everyday Faves palettes this is elite. This is just so good. And I have since seen recently that Ulta Beauty has like revamped their line. I don't know if they've reformulated, but I want to try some products to kind of see like, is it similar? You know, just what we got going on. But this palette right here, this is one of the best. I think this would have to be one of my palettes, like if all my palettes got rid of. I really do. I absolutely love this eyeshadow palette. So that is everything. Thank you so much if you are still here to the end. If you aren't here to the end, leave me, what emoji do I want you to leave? Leave me a yellow heart if you are here to the end, because I appreciate you. And let me know, like I said, if you want to see the next part, which will be my high-end eyeshadow palettes and then all the other things. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you so much. I hope you enjoyed the collection video, and I will see you all in another video very, very soon. Bye.